Hey, what's going on, everybody? This is John J Gaming on the mic here, coming at you with a brand new episode of the NCAA Dynasty, located exclusively here on College Football Revamped. We are starting to get in through that first quarter of the season, and through this first quarter of the season, we had some really good football action. We still have a fair number of undefeated teams that are still around here in this NCSL universe. But the big question is, who are the real contenders that could be competing for conference championships and college football playoff appearances? And who are the teams that are just pretending it might be just benefiting off of a soft schedule to start the season? We're going to go ahead and dive into that and much more, as we have 16 nationally televised games that are going to be coming your way shortly, as well as studio updates throughout the country. So it's going to be fast paced, and it's going to be quite a thriller in today's episode, and I hope you guys enjoy it. If you do, hopefully you go ahead, smack that like button, so you let me know that you enjoy this video, as well as get it out to more college football fans like yourself. And then also hit that subscribe button if you do happen to be brand new to the channel. And with that being said, let's go ahead and dive right into the action. I'll see you guys on the football fields scattered all across the country. I'll see you guys there. So we begin week number 4 of this college football season, and we have a lot of games that are going to be kicking off at the same time. Notably, we got Michigan, Miami, and then this big-time matchup in the Pac-12. UCLA taking on the Washington Huskies. That'll be a premium top 10 matchup. But before we check out that top 10 matchup, we'll check on some of the other national televised games in the early Saturday morning games, as Miami at home, and they will be hosting their conference opponent, the Troy Trojans. Troy, of course, one of the most difficult schedules that any team has to navigate throughout the country, and that is going to be put on full display here. Marcus Amos is going to come out. He's going to run this ball into the touchdown. Was completely untouched as well. And the Miami Hurricanes will take an early lead, but Troy is sticking around, though. The Troy Trojans are not necessarily going anywhere, at least after the first quarter of action. However, we do have a different story in the second quarter, as Amos is going to keep it himself on the speed option. Is going to be forced out of bounds late, but it's going to set up a goal line opportunity inside the 5-yard line. Amos dropping back. He's going to run it in. Touchdown number 2 for Marcus Amos, as the Miami Hurricanes score yet again. And they'll take a 14-3 lead as Miami looks to continue to build this lead. This seems like it is really turning into a Marcus Amos day. We'll see if he tries to run it in for his third rushing touchdown. Sure enough, no! He pitches it out! Gets it to Caleb Kirk for the easy score. And Miami just never looks back after that. Miami winning convincingly once again, 45-17 being your final score, as they remain undefeated. Meanwhile, the number 6 ranked Michigan Wolverines, they also find themselves at home, but they are taking on the Knights of UCF. UCF putting together a solid season so far. They did shock Penn State earlier in the year. We'll see if this UCF squad can do the same thing against this Michigan Wolverines team. The team up north, do they get everything that they can handle, as UCF is trying to get on the scoreboard here? Late in the first quarter of action, they will have a first and goal opportunity, and sure enough, UCF is going to be on the board. Robert Dowdell is going to score for UCF, and we got ourselves a ball game here. Matter of fact, UCF has a chance to take the lead. Can they do it on this drive? Quarterback all by himself, he scores! Flowers gives UCF the lead, and now it's on the shoulders of Fred Morris IV, FM4. Can he lead Michigan back? He's going to hand off to Maurice Hall, one of the best running backs in the country. Does make it third and short, but a critical third down. Morris looks over right inside and finds Stephen Vincent for the touchdown, but UCF will march themselves down the field. They'll get a field goal, and we'll have a time ball game with less than 90 seconds left. But the Wolverines do have a couple of timeouts that they can use here. We'll see how Michigan utilizes them. Maybe don't need to right this second with Jason Kershaw getting out of bounds. They'll be in UCF territory. A couple plays later, Morris is going to load it up. He's going to fire down the left-hand side. It is a dot to Matt Branch. A 41-yard strike. And Michigan will have the lead in the third quarter. But it remains a tightly contested game going into the third quarter. UCF, matter of fact, is going to tie it right back up. Adam Flowers with his first passing touchdown of the day. He's been playing some pretty good ball thus far. And going into the fourth quarter, we might have a massive upset on our hands. UCF is 1 quarter away from pulling off just that potentially. So whoever wins the fourth quarter ends up winning the game. And UCF has a chance to win with less than 3 minutes left as Flowers is going to keep it on the read option. Does get knocked down eventually, but a nice 22-yard run. Way to utilize that mobility. He's averaging 5 yards a carry. However, he does come in on a 3rd and 6 as Flowers is going to throw over to that side. He's got a receiver. J.J. Smith with a 31-yard touch strike, giving UCF a chance to win the game, and they might do it. Antoine Fox is going to score. Touchdown, UCF. The defense just needs one more stop, and they'll pull it off. Can Fred Morris IV bring him back though? FM4 looking to the left-hand side, and it's a nice throw. Also, a good job getting out of bounds as well by Matt Branch. Saves those timeouts. They got 3 timeouts still as Michigan marches down the field. FM4 again with a strike up the middle to Jason Christian as the Wolverines will take a timeout. They do have 2 timeouts remaining. 31-27. Morris sets up the screen. He's got his running back in the open field down the sideline. Pushed out of bounds, but the Michigan Wolverines are going to be in the red zone. 1st and goal. 12 seconds left. FM4 fires. Caught! Matt Branch wide but naked open, and the Michigan Wolverines, they will survive, avoiding a massive upset as Michigan wins at the very last second. So we'll see if some of these other games can live up to that as we now check in to Cincinnati, Ohio, the Queen City. The Bearcats of Cincinnati hosting number 13 Alabama, and they might and the first time UCF and Cincinnati could agree on something, they might have that same big upset energy flowing in their veins right now, as Cincinnati is actually going to get off to an extremely strong start. I was not expecting this when I was firing up NCAA 14 earlier today. And Keefe is going to rush it in for Cincinnati. They have a 17-point win against the Alabama Crimson Tide. Can you imagine the breakdowns on Twitter if Cincinnati actually had this kind of lead against Alabama, and Cincinnati's going to score again? So UC up 24-0. Finally, midway through the second quarter, Alabama's going to score. Don't know how that pass gets through to Matt Brooks. That was an extraordinarily tight window. But Alabama will go for the 2-point conversion, though, as they'll throw over the middle. That's going to be incomplete, though. Maurice Fry on the coverage for the Cincinnati Bearcats. So Cincy has the lead, but Alabama trying to crawl back into the game. And with 7:15, it does get brought down to just an 8-point game. And just at a blink of an eye, just at a snap of the finger, Alabama just needs a 2-point conversion, and they'll tie this game up. Brashard looks over the middle, finds his receiver, and we will have a tied football game. Tied at 24 apiece, as Alabama will get yet another red zone opportunity. Midway through the third quarter, Matt Brashard is going to keep it on the option to the left. Gives him 5 yards, makes it a much more manageable 2nd and 5. Brashard fakes the screen, is going to throw instead to an open Josh Briggs. And for the first time today, Alabama has the lead, but UC looking to strike back. Cincinnati in the red zone, looking to punch it in. They'll get 6 yards there on the play. So now, 2nd and 4. UC throwing over to the middle of the field, and it's going to be caught. That will be good for a first down. That's Brand Jade with 5 catches for 75 yards. He's having a nice day. Nipper Stadium on his feet. He's going to hand it off to Keefe, and Keefe is going to score. Cincinnati is all tied up again against the Alabama Crimson Tide. And it all comes down to the last 3 minutes of the game. 1st and 10. Brashard on the option. That's on the ground. Cincinnati is going to recover. The Bearcats, they do have a chance to win the game, but they don't do anything with that possession. Alabama going to go all the way down the field for a last-second field goal. And the kick is good. Alabama, just by the skin of their teeth, by the margin of a fingernail, Alabama will survive and win against the Cincinnati Bearcats, a heartbreaking loss witnessed at Nippert Stadium. But now, speaking of top 25 teams, we now check in on number 24, LSU. They will be taking on Louisiana Tech, a battle of 1 and 2 teams. This game has big implications, trying to stay alive in the Sun Belt Championship race. Each conference championship does hold an automatic playoff berth. That is the big change from last year to this season, with the field expanding from 8 to 12 teams. LSU will strike first. They'll get an early touchdown on the board, but Louisiana Tech, they will respond right away, though, as Warren Winston with a 13-yard strike. Louisiana Tech will go ahead and tie things up for right now, as here we are late in the first quarter. LSU looking for more points on the scoreboard, as Sean Callahan is nearly able to punch it in. That's his best run of the day, ironically. Goes for a gain of 10. But that was the last play of the first quarter. Second quarter, going right back to Sean Callahan, though, as the LSU Tigers will take the lead yet again. 14-7 now being your score. Louisiana Tech down by a touchdown, though, and are looking to get it out to the outside, and Louisiana Tech scores. So very much a back and forth affair right now. Could still go either way, but LSU looking to take the locker room with momentum going into the second half. LSU goal line opportunity going to Sean Callahan, and call it a drink song, because that's going to be back-to-back touchdowns for the LSU running back. The Tigers back in the lead yet again, and back in the hands of Louisiana Tech. 1 minute to play in the first half as the Bulldogs seek to extend the lead, or extend the tie. 1st and 10, got 2 timeouts to work with, as quarterback's got plenty of time to throw this ball. Throws over the middle to Otis Rose. Doesn't get the first down, so the Bulldogs do have to use a timeout. They'll have 1 timeout left to use, and they're going to use it to go deep downfield. Open receiver, and it's going to score. Warren Winston is going to score for Louisiana Tech. It's a tie ball game at 21-all, and it continues to go back and forth through deep in the second half. LSU just trying their best to put the Louisiana Tech Bulldogs, they're trying to put them away. 4-point game, but LSU is down by the goal line. Gonna be a fake. Throws over the middle, but it's intercepted. It was thrown late. Thrown late down the middle of the field, and that usually spells disaster. Louisiana Tech now have a chance to take the lead in the red zone. Bulldogs hand it off and get it to Adam Stewart for a big-time run. 12-yard gain as he has continued to gash the LSU defense today. 170 yards on the ground as it sets up a short conversion, which not only does LT Tech get, but they also get the touchdown too. So Louisiana Tech in the lead. They just need one more stop and they'll pull the upset off. However, LSU has other plans down the sideline. One man left to beat and it won't get there in time. Sean Callahan with the season on the line. He's going to run a 71-yard touchdown as LSU in the lead. But is it too much time for the Bulldogs, who've been pretty good on offense themselves and have 3 timeouts still? It's going to be a very danger-filled 2 minutes for LSU. Get the seatbelts on. It's going to be a roller coaster of a game. Louisiana Tech continuing to drive downfield and leaning on Adam Stewart. 10-yard run sets them up for an eventual first down. 1st and 10 in LSU territory. Throws to the right-hand side into traffic. And LSU is going to pick it off. And it might be going the other way too. And he is gone. Gone like a girl in a country song. Joe Walton is going to seal the game for the LSU Tigers. They will win this one 42-31 in an absolute shootout. So we do have one more game in the early games happening here today. We got number 5 UCLA. Well, they will make a trip up to the Pacific Northwestern part of the United States, and they will be taking on an undefeated and top 10 team in the number 7 ranked Washington Huskies. Should be a very entertaining game between these two squads. So let's jump right into it. Late in the first quarter, we still don't have a score yet, but that will eventually be broken though, as Sean Rivera, one of the receivers for UCLA, he's going to get it on the jet sweep and it's going to run in all by himself. So that's how we get the scoring started, but a low scoring game, lower than what we may have anticipated. Washington going to get some big plays down the field though, but the big throw that did end up being in double coverage didn't work. Who'd have thunk it, you know? LaRue Martin will ultimately be responsible for picking off Adam Castillo, and Adam Castillo having a very difficult game so far. Threw 2 interceptions in that first half. That's what we would consider a padlock stack, and Washington finds themselves down 10-0, but still keeps them into the game to a point where, okay, we can still use that running attack. That's what Washington's MO is. They love to running football. They get a big run there, and finally Washington will get on the board with a short field goal attempt. So Washington, they are on the board. They're trying to work their way into this game slowly, but UCLA has different things in mind. Midway through the third quarter, looking for a big shot as well, but it's fumbled, and it's going to be scooped up by one of the DBs who trips on the ground. I think if he was able to stay on his feet there, that's a massive swing. Could be looking at a tie ball game, but UCLA's defense has a chance to get him off the field without any major blunders, but Andy Curtis pounds it into the end zone, and because of that turnover, turn that into basically a scoop and score elongated version. We got a tie game again, all tied at 10 apiece as we move further into the third quarter. A tie game. Washington trying to get that passing attack going, finds a receiver downfield. Hang on now, this is trouble. Brandon Turner able to use his surprising speed actually to turn that into a 40-yard touchdown. Did not see that coming. He was surrounded by UCLA defenders and finds a way to score regardless of that. So the Washington Huskies, for the very first time today, they will have a lead up here in Seattle, Washington, here in the Great Northwest. As we now jump into the fourth quarter, UCLA trying to answer, and Brian Daniels will ultimately answer the call here. Brian Daniels is going to score, and it's back to being a tie ball game yet again. 17-all, your score. 5 minutes left in the game. We got a nice run by the quarterback, Castillo. Castillo, he's got some mobility. Castillo, can he score? No. Castillo is going to be brought down for a 56-yard run. I mean, look at this run. Able to make a man miss early. We really thought that he was going to get into the end zone. He was close, but there will be no cigarettes here. No cigars for almost counts in horseshoes, hand grenades, and nuclear missiles. But doesn't matter long term on the scoreboard, as Adam Castillo able to keep it once again. And we'll see Washington score once more, putting the pressure on UCLA, and that pressure ultimately ends up being a little too great as Washington, the Huskies of Washington, are able to win their opening game on primetime television, able to take down UCLA 24-17. Well, that'll end up being your final score. So we got studio update, first one that we see in this episode so far, and it's an upset. Western Michigan is able to shock the Golden Gophers of Minnesota 24-17. So Minnesota will very likely fall out of the top 25. But we have a couple of other top 25 teams getting ready to be in action. Georgia and Texas most notably. We'll check in on that Georgia's team first and foremost, as they'll be taking on a winless Florida Atlantic team that is still trying to find its identity, but there is certainly no identity crisis with this Georgia Bulldogs team. They know exactly who they are, and they are humming at an extremely high level. Took that early lump against Florida State that could hurt them a little bit later in the season, but They're just controlling what they can control right now, and right now they are controlling Florida Atlantic on both sides of the ball, just really dominating in the trenches. And I don't think anybody is necessarily surprised by that. Elliott Hardman able to find quite a bit of running space thus far. As now, we'll see this quarterback drop back, look over the middle. He's going to find his receiver for the touchdown. And it's Andre Bryant's second passing touchdown of the day. He wants to go for a hat trick, though. We'll see if they let him throw it here inside the 5-yard line, or will we see them run the ball, and it will be a run. It's going to be a pitch at the last second to Elliott Hardman, who scores. And Georgia, needless to say, dominates against Florida Atlantic, winning by 40 at home. But the number one team in the country, though, is the Texas Longhorns. And Texas, everything's bigger in Texas, even the expectations, as Texas looks to get into the college football playoff. They were denied, and they were a team that probably should have gotten in last year, but the pollsters did not feel the same way. But SMU is a little bit tired of the disrespect, though. They have a chance to take the lead here deep into the second quarter. Maybe start getting that upset alert out if we don't worry about the jinx. And sure enough, Jeremy Smith does get smacked at the goal line, but a very reasonable 3rd and goal for SMU to try to pick it up. We'll see what they call down here on the goal line. They go back to the running game, and it was a tough 2 yards, but Jeremy Smith got it. SMU is in the end zone, and they have the lead against the number one team in the country. But the next few minutes are going to be huge, though. Lots of weapons on this Texas offense, Trey Dixon included. And Trey Dixon with a 17-yard run there, as we got a 1st and 10 in SMU territory. Ingram drops back, looks over the middle, he's got a receiver. He's got plenty of space to work upfield, breaks a tackle. And Julian Sanders is going to be finally brought down, but not before a 17-yard scamper. That's his biggest reception of the day. As now the Longhorns are just outside of the red zone, as Ingram again drops back, looks over the middle, and finds Kobe Berg this time around for an 18-yard catch. Chase Ingram hasn't had much of a chance to throw the ball in this first half, but has been effective when given the opportunity, and that will be brought to fruition by a Trey Dixon touchdown. That's the second one of the day. But here we are in the third quarter, and this is how they're the number one team in the country. Texas, they just know how to close games in the second half. This is more of a second half team, more than anything. No one has been able to match Texas for all 4 quarters. At least that's what it seems like. As here we are in the fourth quarter, speaking of which, and Texas starting to pull away. That will be continued as Trey Dixon is going to score for the Texas Longhorns. They score yet again, and they're going to be looking for a 40 piece as well. That's as much 40 plus. That's what they've been scoring all season long. That will continue, as they have not had a single game where they scored under 40 points, with the exception of their FCS matchup. Texas is going to win this one 42-21, as Texas, well, they're going to win big this time around. But that being said, we have more college football action going your way. And while neither of these teams that are going to be coming up are actually ranked, still a lot of intriguing action. We'll check in now on Pittsburgh going on the road to take on the Bears of Baylor. Baylor, of course, led by one of your guys' customs in Les Jordan. And Les Jordan leading a pretty good drive here in the second quarter, using his big body and his mobility to pound it into the end zone. And it took a while to get it done, but Baylor is finally going to score. They'll take a 7-0 lead, but Pittsburgh drives down the length of the field and is able to sort of answer back. They'll get a field goal on the board. So it is a close game in the first half, but in the second half, could be a little bit different of a story. We are starting to see Baylor pull away already, but 2nd and goal now. Pittsburgh needs to hold him out in the end zone. Jordan looks over the middle, finds a receiver, gets back to that original line of scrimmage, but still going to be a challenging 3rd and goal to pick up. Looking at about a 3rd and 11 as Jordan fakes it, fires, and just throws it into coverage. So Baylor had a field goal, but Les Jordan is going to literally fumble the bag there, It takes us into the fourth quarter where we still have the same score. And this time, instead of trying to force it in with his arm, he's just going to trust his legs here and runs over a defender while doing it too. So, while there wasn't the most scoring happening in this particular game, Baylor is able to win 21-3. Meanwhile, Washington State is seeking its very first win of the season as we are in a nervous Pullman, Washington. They'll be hosting the North Carolina Tar Heels as Washington State is getting ready to wrap up its non-conference play. And that's the thing for Washington State. They may not even be the worst team in the country, but oh man, if they can't win this game, it's going to be really hard for them to win in the Pac-12. Could be a long year for Washington State. So must-win game for the Washington State Cougars. And they are certainly playing with that kind of attitude, giving North Carolina everything that they can handle. It took them a while for North Carolina to even score in the first place. But once North Carolina found that rhythm, it could be barbecue chicken for Washington State. But wait, we might have a pick six alert. Danny Bates can't catch him, and he's going to be gone. That is a foot race that he's not losing often, as Washington State is going to stunningly tie against the Tar Heels of North Carolina. Danny Bates just left it in the air for too long. Should put more velocity on the ball. So it's a tying ball game going into the second half. A game that has suddenly quite a bit more intrigue if you've been following this North Carolina team this season so far. But we do see them in a goal line situation. Bates is going to hand it off to Andy Jackson. And North Carolina is going to score. They'll take the lead. But Washington State can respond, though. 3 minutes left in the third quarter. Looks over to the left-hand side. He's got a receiver. Arthur Harrison is going to be marked just shy. But opens up a lot of the playbook here on 3rd and inches. Looking. It's going to be a short pass over the right-hand side. And it's a perfectly executed slant pattern. Ricky Hall's going to get his second passing touchdown of the game. And now we get into the fourth quarter. North Carolina, Washington State, battling out between these two teams right now. Whoever wins the fourth quarter ultimately wins the game, as the Cougars have a chance to take the lead. Dropping back, got time to throw, is going to look over to the left-hand side and finds Arthur Harrison for a 7-yard gain. But now another 3rd and inches situation, something that the Cougars have thrived in thus far, and they're going to continue to thrive as Cornelius Gordon is going to punch it into the end zone himself. Touchdown, Washington State. So the Cougars now up 28-24 as North Carolina looking desperately. What a response! How does that pass get through? Lester Estes, part of the 10 toes down movement, gets North Carolina inside the 5, and the Tar Heels are going to score. Andy Jackson is going to possibly get the game-winning touchdown, and sure enough, they do. North Carolina wins 31-28, while Washington State still searches for that first win of the year. So some more studio updates that are going to be coming your way, as we do have San Jose State getting the 3-1, considering they got a 12-point win over Utah State. And then in other news as well, Colorado State is able to beat UNLV in a tightly contested game in the Mountain West. That brings Colorado State back to 500, while UNLV falls to 2-2 as well. But we do have a couple of more games happening as we now check in on number 15, Clemson. They will be hosting the Wildcats of Arizona. Arizona was a solid team last season, but Clemson had a really phenomenal second half surge. But there really wasn't too much scoring in this particular game. Really not too much of note. All that you really needed to know was that Clemson, they handled their business, albeit not in the most prettiest of ways, I guess is the best word to describe it. So Clemson won 16-0 there. And now we check in on some MAC action. Notre Dame is going to be hosting the Cardinals of Louisville. Notre Dame has been looking pretty good in the games that they've played in, but haven't really played anybody. And so kind of expecting a little bit of the same here from this Notre Dame team. But Louisville's putting up a fight. Louisville is putting up a pretty good fight. They're already up 7-0. So Notre Dame has to punch it into the end zone, or else it could be a nervous time in South Bend, Indiana. Thankfully, the Notre Dame fans don't have to worry about that, as Greg Hunt is going to be able to punch it into the end zone there if that's going to be a touchdown, but they missed the extra point. They somehow find a way to miss the extra point. Hopefully that doesn't come into play later. We'll see if that comes into effect later, as Louisville trying to get the lead back, and they will. And because of that missed field goal, Louisville does have the lead, but Notre Dame's offense is going to answer. They can't control how the kicker is, but they can control how they're moving offensively. Moving with a rhythm, moving with a style. But why am I showing special teams though? Boys, I am showing special teams for a pretty good reason, as we get a pretty good return here from the Louisville Cardinals. Ja'Shawn Moore is going to get all the way up to the 40-yard line, and Louisville's been doing a good job moving the ball overall. 200 yards of total offense, 10 first downs too. So Louisville is set up in phenomenal field goal position as Louisville looks to answer the bell. Once again, Ryan Charles taking the read option for a gain of 16, but Louisville in a 4th and 3 and kind of in no man's land. They're going to go for it on 4th down, and they're going to convert. Jeremy Harrell with a 20-yard reception. Louisville takes one of their timeouts. They only have one timeout left to work with. Louisville looks over to the right-hand side, and Ryan Charles is going to give Louisville the lead against the Fighting Irish of Notre Dame. It's been a brilliant first half for Ryan Charles, who now has 3 passing touchdowns on the day. However, did it leave too much time for Notre Dame? No, as the Fighting Irish still have all of their timeouts, and it's easier to move the ball in the 2-minute drills at the college level than it is at the pro level. So we'll see how Notre Dame plays this drive out as Greg Hunt dumps it off to the left-hand side, does pick up the first down. Travis Coleman also able to get out of bounds, so able to use those timeouts, which Notre Dame still hasn't used for whatever reason, but they might not need it though, as they find an open Sean Hawkins for a 39-yard reception, goes for a touchdown. So Notre Dame has the lead going into the halftime locker room. We'll see if Notre Dame can hold on to that momentum in the second half as we dive deep into the second half of this ball game between Louisville and Notre Dame, as we get into a goal line situation as Notre Dame is able to extend the lead against Landon Hogan. Hogan is going to score, and that might put Louisville a little bit out of reach. But Notre Dame not just thinking about winning, they're trying to add some style points, and sure enough, Notre Dame actually does go ahead and put some style points up on the board. Fighting Irish is going to win 41-21, as they did end up pulling away in the second half, and Notre Dame is still undefeated. But we get some more studio updates though, as we get a surprising upset. San Diego State is able to pull it off against Oregon, 34-31. Oregon might be in danger of falling out of the top 25 because of his loss. And then we have some other studio updates from around the country. How about Bowling Green going on the road and taking on the Utah Utes? They win 44-35 there. So, but now we jump into many more games that are happening, including the game that happens to be the video or the picture that's part of the thumbnail. I don't know why that was ridiculously hard to get out. But last 2 games of this episode, though, we have a rivalry game that hasn't been played very often, but should be played in more often. West Virginia, 2-1 West Virginia is going on the road, and they will be taking on the 1-1 Maryland Terrapins. Should be an interesting game of non-conference implications, as Maryland is going to look to draw the first blood, and they will. Matt Young is going to find the end zone for a touchdown, and the Terrapins will take an early 7-0 lead in what has been a little bit of a defensive struggle. Still only a 4-point game between these two teams, but Maryland looking to start to pull away here a little bit. So they got an open Jonathan Hutchinson down the sideline. If he didn't step out of bounds, he might have found his way into the end zone, but looking at the goal line situation regardless, as Maryland with Matt Young, he's going to get his second rushing touchdown of the day. The Terps with a commanding 14-3 lead, but West Virginia not giving up. They're not going to lay down lightly in this rivalry game matchup. Bishop is going to get him into a first and goal situation. And then, very next play, in the first and goal, West Virginia firing to the right-hand side. And it's caught by Michael Wright. Touchdown, West Virginia. And the Mountaineers are back in this game. They do manage to cut it to just one possession. Before we do go ahead and cut it into the locker room, been an exciting one in this thumbnail matchup between Maryland and West Virginia. The sign of College Game Day. Ironically, I was a little surprised that they picked this particular game for the College Game Day, but we're not certainly complaining. It's been a very competitive game, even though these aren't the two most talented teams by any stretch of the imagination. Neither team is ranked, but we are getting a good game, and that's all you can ask for out of a thumbnail matchup, as Craig Holman is going to score. Touchdown, Maryland. And the Terps now with a 31-24 lead. We're going to try to put it away over the middle. It's going to be a quick reception, but we do have Craig Holman down, and that could be a big loss if that's a long-term injury. That's a big loss for Maryland, as they now have 6 catches for 70 yards. Thankfully, Maryland is still able to find a way to get into the end zone there. So Maryland pulling away. 38-24 is your score. And it looks like they're going to be winning this game unless we have a Miami situation. However, that's not going to be the case. Maryland actually successful in padding their stats. They're probably going to win this game unless there's an absolute miracle. But West Virginia looking to try to pad the stats, trying to make it to where the score doesn't look as bad as how this game actually was. Maryland did pull away in that fourth quarter. 14 unanswered points in the fourth is going to get Maryland their second win of the year. But West Virginia drops their second game too. However, we do have number 16 Florida going on the road and taking on the Yellow Jackets of Georgia Tech, who are still undefeated. Speaking of that Miami situation, funny how that works. So just talking about the Georgia Tech and Miami game in real life, and who do we run across in the Sim League world? Georgia Tech, which actually in a competitive game against Florida. Could they pull the upset just like the real Yellow Jackets? I mean, they certainly have a shot. Alex Washington is going to tie the game. That's an absolutely beautiful backdrop in Atlanta, Georgia, having that city skyline in the background of that stadium. I'm sure the night games are something else, but Georgia Tech does have a 10-7 lead as BJ Peters tries to change it, but it's intercepted, and Georgia Tech trying to run it back, and it's going to be a goal line situation. They can't punch it into the end zone, even though they started inside the 10-yard line. So absolutely just throwing the bag there. But the Yellow Jackets do have a chance to take the lead into halftime, but somehow they decide to pass the ball, and because of a missed tackle, Florida might take it all the way back. Florida is going to score, and just a shocking turn of events. Anthony Rogers taking advantage of a lifetime bad of a decision there. Florida now has the lead, and Florida carrying that momentum into the second half too. Is first drive of the second half, BJ Peters is going to run into the end zone himself, and that extends the lead for the Florida Gators as Georgia Tech looks to respond down by 8. We'll get a quick reception over the middle though. That's David Garcia with just his second catch of the day. And it sets up second and short though as Georgia Tech throws over in the middle and finds a Corey Wright into the end zone. Touchdown, Georgia Tech. And we'll see if they decide to go for the 2-point conversion or not. They actually will. So 2 yards away from tying the game. But Georgia Tech is going to be stuffed at the line. So Florida still holds on to a lead going into the fourth quarter. BJ looking over the middle. It's going to be caught. An incredible BJ. Pause. Touchdown, Florida. That's a 28-19 lead. Georgia Tech cannot handle the absolute brilliance of BJ Peters. And now Florida with a chance to put it away with this field goal. The kick is up, and it's going to be good. Florida does hang on and win 31-22 as the Gators have a solid year free. Meanwhile, speaking of those ranked teams, we now check in on number 2, USC. They travel to Cornelius, Oregon, or Cornelius, Oregon. Wow, that was you can go ahead and roast me for that in the comment, guys. I certainly deserve that. But Oregon State, late in this first quarter, playing down and dirty, which is probably how they wanted to play against this number 2 team in the entire country, and the defending national champions too, not to mention. Scott Green does eventually get it into the end zone there, and Oregon State got themselves a game against the number 2 team in the nation. We'll see if Oregon State can retake the lead with less than 3 minutes left. This is a big throw downfield, but it was thrown into double coverage, and the USC secondary is going to take advantage. Trojans will take over in Oregon State territory as Scott's going to start the new drive with a run up the gut for Nick Richard, who just takes multiple defenders with him, and it's going to be a first down. 1st and 10 coming up. They're going to go back to the ground game. This time, Ben Scott's going to keep it. He returned back to college, did not choose to go to the NFL, and USC is loving that decision right now if they continue to do so. So USC up 14-7 after that rushing touchdown. Is Oregon State looking to respond before the half, as this is a good run down the sideline. One man left to beat, and it looks like he's going to be gone. Touchdown, Oregon State. There is no flags either, and Darrell Sanders is going to get it all knotted up against the number 2 team in the nation. We have ourselves a game on our hands right now. This could be a photo finish in the making. 21-all going into the 4th quarter. Scott in the red zone looking to try to lead USC over the top, as Ben Scott is going to be forced out of bounds. And now looking at yet another 1st and goal situation. USC looking for a critical touchdown here in the 4th quarter, and they're going to find it courtesy of Terrell Salas. Terrell Salas is going to score for USC, and it puts them into a 28-21 lead. But Oregon State, they drive down the field themselves. They've got a red zone opportunity of their own. This is a massive drive for the Oregon State Beavers if they want to pull this upset off. 2nd and short coming up, dropping back. He's got time to work in the pocket, looks to the right-hand side, and finds his man in the corner. Antonio McKinney with the catch, and it makes it a goal line situation. Couple plays later, Jeremy Huffman, he had the big touchdown run earlier. He's going to score yet again for the Oregon State Beavers. And it's now 28-all. Going to the last few minutes. USC, they'll answer back with a score of their own. Touchdown, Trojans. And they just need a stop. They get the stop. Not the extra point, though. But this extra point, or this field goal, would put it away. And it's in. They actually count that field goal as good. So USC also going to survive. 37-28 is going to be your final score. So we now have Texas Tech taking on Texas A&M in a battle between the two, maybe slightly lesser Texas schools. Neither of them are certainly the University of Texas, home of the Longhorns. See if Texas A&M can notch their first win of the season, as Texas A&M will actually kick this field goal up, and it will be good. So Texas A&M does carry a lead into the 2nd quarter. The $1 million question for Texas A&M, though, is can they actually keep said lead? That's been the problem for Texas A&M all season long, as we now have a tie ball game at 10 apiece. Looking over to the left-hand side, but it's going to be intercepted. And sure enough, we will have a tie ball game going into the half. So it all comes down to that second half. It's been a low-scoring affair as well, as both teams seem like they're still content with just sharing field goals. And look, you see the total yards for both teams. It's not that they're not trying to move the ball down the field. They actually have had, both teams had decent success, but they continue to stall out in the red zone. And it's just a matter of who's actually going to turn those field goals into touchdowns in the red zone, as Texas A&M in the 4th quarter has a chance to win the game, put it away, but that's an incredible diving grab there that might save Texas Tech's chances to win the game. They still need an 80-yard drive to win it, though. Less than 3 minutes left, not the easiest proposition. Texas Tech will pick up the first down, their first play of the drive, gets them across the 30-yard line, but still plenty of a ways to go. Looks like they're more than content with just dinking and dumping, as the Red Raiders still have all of their timeouts as well. Less than 90 seconds left, though. Throwing over to the middle, and it's going to be caught for the first down. Quincy Brunner gets him to the 40-yard line. A promising drive for Texas Tech. We're going to keep it going. 1st and 10. Dropping backs. Got plenty of time as Texas A&M sends 4. Somehow gets out of that pressure and looking for the first down. Stanley Foster is going to pick up the first down inside the 30-yard line. 1st and 10. Texas Tech looking for the win, and they get it. Joe Hall, butt naked open in the end zone, and that is Stanley Foster's only touchdown that he needs to throw today as Texas Tech seizes victory from the jaws of defeat. But the last game that we have on the docket here today, at least from a national standpoint, is number 3 Ole Miss. They're on the road to take on the Memphis Tigers. Memphis previously ranked, but after a loss to Arkansas, they're outside the top 25 once again. So we'll see if this Memphis team can bounce back. And it looks like this Memphis team is doing more than that. They have a 14-0 lead against Ole Miss right now. Granted, we have seen other teams like a Cincinnati, like a UCF get leads against top 10 teams. I haven't been able to finish the job, so try not to get too excited as of yet. But it's profounding to see Memphis not only winning against Ole Miss, but they are dominating against Ole Miss right now. Rebels finally get a red zone opportunity. Less than 4 minutes left in the first half. Just looking for any sort of consistency on the offensive side of the ball. It has been a struggle for sure. As we now have a 3rd and short coming up now as Archie drops back, throws to the right hand side, and it's intercepted at the last possible moment. So Ole Miss continues to be shut out, and the Tigers drive down the field looking for another score. Dropping back, and it's caught! Touchdown, Memphis! Trey Richardson with a grateful first half. And the shock of week number 4, Memphis blowing out Ole Miss 49-14. So with all the nationally televised games completely done, let's now take a look around the country at some other scores that may have fallen in between the cracks initially. How about Hawaii continuing its 2-year stretch of very high-level football? They are now 3-0 and ranked number 9 in the country as they beat Virginia 48-10. The Hawaii Rainbow Warriors 3-0 and looking good moving into Pac-12 action. As for the Rice Owls, Rice is also a 3-0 football team as they're able to take down North Texas 49-24. The Owls are 3-0 as they get their first win in conference play. As for Army, they will be looking to continue to plead their case to get into the top 25. They were top 25 previously in this series, but here they are at 3-0 and still not ranked. Maybe the result from last season holding them back a little bit, but the Black Knights are having a strong start to the season, including a 30-point win over Oklahoma State. But there will be some room made in the top 25 as Oklahoma, the Sooners, get shocked by UTSA 38-20, and UTSA with a good start to the season, 3-1 with their first win in conference play on the road. As for Miami of Ohio, the Red Hawks are able to get back on the right track here in year number 3. They are back to 500, securing a big-time win over Wake Forest. The Red Hawks win 56-21 at their home stadium. For Rutgers, meanwhile, the Rutgers Scarlet Knights also do the same thing and getting back to 500. As they're starting Conference USA action shortly, Rutgers wins 38-7 against a UAB team still looking for its first win of the season. For Cal continues to be undefeated on the year as they now get to 4-0 on the season. They win 41-17 against Kent State. The Golden Flashes will be falling to 1-3 here. As for Tulane continues its good start to the season as they get into the top 20. They had a 42-16 win over Eastern Michigan as this Eagle squad from the Midwest is now on a 2-game losing streak after starting the year at 2-0. As for the Charlotte 49ers, the 49ers dominate South Carolina 49-10 And how about South Carolina's absolute fall from grace, starting 0-4, and all of those losses happen in ACC play as well. They're certainly out of that championship hunt, and therefore the college football playoff hunt already as well. And to wrap things up in terms of notable scores outside of the nationally televised games, we have Arkansas taking on their in-state opponent in Arkansas State. And in the Battle of Arkansas, the Razorbacks will come out on top 38-21. Their 3-1 record that they have right now will also be reflected in conference play. So Arkansas off to a promising start in Sun Belt Conference action. So about a third of the way through the season, so let's go ahead and take a look at what the top 25 is currently looking like, as this is how things are currently shaking out as of right now. Washington able to move up a few spots. They're up to number 4 in the country after a big win against UCLA. Washington also receiving a first place vote because of that. Miami, they were able to get an impressive win over Troy. We saw that in gameplay today, as did Georgia, a win against Florida Atlantic. Florida State also on bye, but despite it being on bye this past weekend, they're still able to move up a couple of spots. Hawaii doing the same thing, 3-0, getting ready to get into conference play soon, but the Hawaii team is ready to try to compete for big things this upcoming season. And then rounding out your top 10 is UCLA, which despite having a loss to Washington, a close loss, might I add, UCLA is still in the top 10, but they put themselves in a compromising position for the Pac-12 championship hunt. They got to win out. As for the rest of the top 25, Ole Miss fell down 10 spots. They were shell-shocked by Ole Miss. Biggest shocker in my mind, and that's going to get Memphis into the top 25. We also are looking through the rest of the top 25 polls. Rice is up 2 spots to number 17 in the country. They had an excellent season last year. They started strong last year, but kind of fell towards the tail end. We'll see if they can keep it up for an entire college football season. Arkansas moves up a couple spots, as does Cal, both of them with convincing wins in non-conference play. Tulane gets to number 20 after a big win against Eastern Michigan. And then rounding out your top 25, quite a few newcomers. We got Memphis, which will be tested against LSU. In the next episode, we will be showing that gameplay on the channel for the next one. Nebraska is still here at number 23. Started the year 0-2, but they have won their last couple of games. Auburn was on bye, but they were able to sneak in, as does Southern Miss. So a lot of love for the Sun Belt Conference, especially towards the tail end of things. So that will wrap things up for another episode of the NCSL Dynasty, located exclusively on College Football Revamped. We've had an excellent time covering this series so far. We're starting to see some contenders and maybe some pretenders showing up as well, as the chase for the expanded college football playoff continues through this college football season. I hope you guys did enjoy it though. If you did, make sure you go ahead, smack that like button for me. Hit that subscribe button as well if you do happen to be brand new to the channel. This is John J. Gaming on the mic, signing off. Hope you guys are all out there having a good one. Take care, everybody.